The automobile is one of the most important inventions that revolutionized the modern world. In America, the rich history of car culture runs deep as technology continues to shape the future of the industry. Jason Stein,
former publisher of Automotive News,
is here to share the stories of people passionate about cars, from industry leaders and innovators to car-obsessed celebrities. Buckle up as Jason takes you inside the boardroom, onto the track, and around the bend on Cars and Culture on SiriusXM Business Radio.
Welcome to Cars and Culture on SiriusXM in episode 129. I'm your host, Jason Stein. From horse racing to NASCAR to the Olympics to Netflix, there are few people in the car culture world that are more emblematic of diversity than Rutledge Wood. Your elementary school kid knows Rut from The Floor is Lava. Your father might know him from his coverage at the Kentucky Derby or NASCAR. Your mother may know him from the barbecue cook-offs on the Food Network. And your car collector friend knows him from the modifications Rut is constantly doing on his fleet of vehicles. Rutledge Wood is anything but static, and he's all about cars and culture. As one of the hosts of Top Gear USA, he was thrust into the car spotlight as the show attempted to mirror the standards of the British version. But he's been so much more than that since. Rutledge has taken his ability to be entertaining and informative and cast it across multiple platforms and many audiences. And all the while maintaining his car collection, modifying trucks, cars, and vintage sidestep vans. He's even turning a Toyota pickup truck into a drift racer. Why? Because he can. Out in the world, out of all of these places, some within the car community, some peripheral to it, he feels the future of car passion with a younger audience, and he's helping to fuel it. Whether it's through his affiliation with rapper Killer Mike, who is himself a car collector, or as the host of Hot Wheels Ultimate Challenge on NBC, Rut is everywhere. His world is diverse. Today, it is the world according to Rutledge on Cars and Culture.
Hey, I'm Rutledge Wood, and this is Cars and Culture with Jason Stein.
I did not come to this interview with a tucked-in shirt or khakis because I just wanted to be like Rutledge Wood. But look at this. You and I both show up in black shirts. I mean, this is perfect.
It's the way to go. I wore my throwback, the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach t-shirt I found this morning. I was like, oh, this is a great one for today. I like that we match. That happens sometimes, rarely, but this is nice.
I like that too. Welcome into the program.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's so cool. Our friend Dutch invited me, and I know we've tried to do this a bunch of times. My schedule has been crazy this year somehow, and it always feels like that. But it's so glad to be here with you.
Well, thank you for being with us. Your schedule is crazy, and I want to talk about where you've been just recently because the Specialty Equipment Market Association, SEMA, of course, trade show happened in Las Vegas. You were in Las Vegas just before the perfect storm of Formula One. How does it all look there?
Do you want the like polished political, or do you want do you want my honest assessment?
I want the Rutledge version.
Okay, here's what I think. It's going to be...
And we're on satellite radio, so if it was a shit show, just go ahead and tell us.
Okay, I want to paint a picture. Las Vegas, we know, is always crazy. SEMA, especially that whole week, there's so many things happening. There's people everywhere. There's this small group of people that think if they have a McLaren, they should run straight pipe and just rev it everywhere. And I hear you. I wish y'all would stop doing that. But right now... I had the opportunity. It seemed like there was a deal coming together that I was going to go to F1 and go do some work for some friends. And that deal didn't really come together. And I was a little bummed at first because I thought this is going to be unbelievable to see in person, to be a part of this. Having been there now, I am very excited to watch it on TV. And I think I'm very thankful that I won't have to physically be there for this one. Maybe in the future. But because of the way the course, I mean, it's in the heart of Las Vegas. They're running on the strip. It's going to be insane. I don't know how it's going to work, honestly. Every cab driver and Uber driver that I talked to, which was, of course, I'm a talker. You know, you're going to do the same thing. We're going to talk to everybody. Sure. Every single one, when I asked them, like, hey, how you feeling about F1? Every single one said, oh, I'm not working that weekend. That's a lot. We're all getting out of here. And I was like, oh, no. So you won't be able to easily get to stuff. Everyone's going to have to just go around the outside of kind of the heart and soul of it, which that's a lot. But then also because it's running where the temporary buildings they built or new buildings and pit road, all this other stuff, I think people are just going to be lost. And the footbridges are weird. The only thing that seemed like a real jerk move to me was F1 trying to cover up any view that a person could have, any sort of walkover, anything like that. I get it. Y'all think you're awesome. That's great. I'm still a big believer that I think without Drive to Survive, which, and I say this with love, it's an awesome program, but it is a soap opera for adults, if we're all honest, right?
Yeah.
It's a great soap opera, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
I personally feel like the racing product is not as quality as that show.
No, and that's true. Well, the racing product was a lot better a few years ago during the height of COVID when the show really took off, and you had Max and Lewis were going at it every weekend.
Yes, that was way more entertaining. But, me coming from NASCAR, covering that for almost 20 years, like we have passing, and where people qualify doesn't necessarily mean that's where they're going to finish. And so for me, I've listened to people criticize NASCAR for so many years, talking about, oh, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. Y'all, F1's boring. The sport right now is not exciting. I know we're in this era where Max is the king. I'm not discrediting that at all. But he also was basically quoted saying he doesn't really like the racing part. He just wants to get out and win. And I'm like, so you like qualifying? Bro, that's not what is happening. What is happening? It's not like Schumacher was ever like, the passing part is fun, but I really just like being alone by myself and just running the fastest
Sunday drive. Yeah, sure. Yeah. And just back to Formula One in Las Vegas again. Could you have ever imagined that? And maybe it is obviously, Netflix is one part of the ingredient here, but could you ever have imagined that the American public would have such an interest in what's happening with Formula One, and that they would know who Verstappen was, or that they would care whether Hamilton won? I mean, I went to races for years in Detroit, and there were no Americans there. I mean, they were the South Americans.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at, I've always, for the record, I know it sounds like I'm hating on F1. I'm not. I just think the product needs to be better, and I think we need to have actual passing, actual racing going on more than we have. So I just want to be clear. I've been in that group that gets up really early and watches races from around the world because we have to, right? Every time we'd be at a NASCAR track and there's a race on at 6 a.m., we would all get there early and go in, and they'd have the feed for us and we'd go watch. So I'm a huge fan. I can't believe the way that the show has impacted, and really that's what's driven it, right? And because if you talk to guys like Dax Shepard, Dax is a perfect example, right? He's got his podcast, F1 with DRS, and the way that people have responded to that, and it's, again, talking about the subculture and all these other different parts of it, but also talking about what makes us, align ourselves with a certain driver. The reason that, I love Daniel Ricciardo, right? The first interview I ever saw with that guy, I was like, this is my dude. He's someone that I want to pull for.
Oh, he's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And you see the seasons and the change and all of those things. I don't think anyone could have guessed when that show got pitched, and especially to a streaming service that doesn't show racing, which is like the fact that Netflix, I've done some really fun stuff and certainly a lot of car stuff with them. But the fact that they bought this show about this global sport and thought, well, we're in 180 countries, people will watch in some capacity. But then for it to be this just absolute doorbuster, that's crazy. The wildest part to me is that the race in Las Vegas is on at 10 p.m. at night.
That's right.
To be in that crowd, we can't even. I've been to Talladega on Halloween, and I thought, no, you can't see anything crazier than this. I've been in Vegas on Halloween. This one was another one. But being at the Kentucky Derby, standing next to Dale Jr., watching the most attractive people I've ever seen barf in public, I don't think we can even begin to imagine the level of wastedness that will be the majority of the crowd at 10 p.m. in Vegas.
And you just got back from SEMA, where there'll be a level of wastedness there as well.
100%. Not for me, man. We were the early birds. Like, we don't make it to 10:30. Yeah, I'm there to work, so it's different for me. But I certainly saw it when you see people on your way to SEMA that are coming out from the casino or the club at 7 a.m. and you're like, y'all, that was a long night. It's going to be a hard week for them. But here's what I'll say: it's going to be crazy. It will be the stories I bet we'll hear from people will be bonkers. One of my best friends, Tanner Fausa, I did Top Gear with. He's going to be running hot laps for McLaren around there because he races in the Extreme E series. And I can't remember, have you talked to Tanner before?
I have not talked to Tanner. We'd love to talk
We'll
to
make
Tanner.
that happen. He's amazing. We got to spend some time together last week, but he's flying himself in, and he's going to land, I think, in Hendersonville, which is just a little bit north, I think. And that's a public airstrip. And if this gives people any sort of indication about how things are going to work, the amount of, you've heard about F1 races, how many people come in for them. Certainly here in the US, everybody that's a big player with nothing to do is coming, right? So if you have
Absolutely.
a private jet, you're coming in. To touch down there is $3,000 at this public airport.
Wow.
That is like 45 minutes away.
Well, in
$3,000.
In Austin last year, we had the chance to go, and at the private airstrip, they ran out of fuel. There were so many planes.
I believe that. You see them. They're on both sides of the runway, parked in the grass. Like, wow.
They're stacked. Yeah. What did you like at SEMA? What blew you away? What trends should we embrace, Rutledge?
All right. If I can be totally honest, it's weird at SEMA right now. The weirdest part being a lot of the OEMs have pulled out, right? Stellantis, Dodge, they pulled out a week beforehand.
Yep. That's right.
Which to me is a bonehead move. It's a bad sign to your core audience, right? Number one. Number two, if you want us to buy into all these things that are happening, you're missing out on the chance for us to be the voice for you, right? So I hate that. Ford's changed a lot of stuff over the years. I love that Toyota has just gone bigger and bigger and bigger every single year. We had 19 vehicles in the Toyota display, and this is my, I think, 12th year hosting SEMA for Toyota. So we always do a big kickoff. This time we did it early on Monday afternoon, and then I did the kickoff Tuesday morning. So I love that we're still seeing changes in growth and new builds. Toyota debuted I don't want to call it a concept car, but the coolest thing that I saw there were two huge vehicles in their booth. One was the X Runner. So it's a 24 Tacoma, but it had the 3.4 twin turbo V6 out of the Tundra in it. And you remember when the X Runner came out before, I think it was 04, 06, right in that window. It was a manual transmission only. There were three colorways, and no one else was really doing like a sport truck of any kind. And those things have still held their value like crazy. But this one is essentially, if you went to the parts bin at Toyota, what could you build? And so it was basically all stuff you could bolt on and create. And so I think what that means is if the public responds well to that, and I've asked them, like, could I take this on the Hot Rod Power Tour next year? Can I do autocross? Can I do burnouts? Can we drag race it? And the answer from the production guy was like, yeah. And the engineer, they're like, yeah, that's why we want to make it. Like, this thing would be a screamer. I was like, okay. So I love that. My buddy Marty Schwerter built the FJ Bruiser over there. And it's a TRD Cup engine. So you got 700 something horsepower, and it had a restrictor plate on there, which was funny. But it's got a tank track on the bottom. So if you were to high side it at any point from the driver's seat, you could use this tank track to control it. So I loved that. It was interesting how many classic cars I saw with electric motor swaps.
Okay,
like,
so
let's say
that
last
revolution is underway. Yeah,
it's happening. Let's say last year there was 2 or 3. I bet I saw 25 or 30 this year, which doesn't sound like a lot. That's a huge amount.
Wow.
That's a huge amount. I mean, there was one I saw Bud Brutzman. It was over in his booth, and for the show, and it had it was a 67 Mustang Fastback, and I think it had either 1100 or 1200 all-wheel drive horsepower. Like, that's insane. So it was great. I think we're seeing I saw like the PPF that now looks like vinyl wrap, but it's really colored PPF. I think that'll be cool. I think that's going to be interesting how that kind of changes that industry a little bit, because it seems like it might be a little bit tougher than vinyl. I don't know. I don't know how those two groups will pair against each other, because it looks like vinyl, but it's really PPF, which is supposed to be different, but it's colored. So that was interesting. Huge amount of brodozers. The amount of huge trucks there is probably the most I've seen in the last 10 years. And I love that, keep in mind, I'm a guy that I built like a neon yellow Tundra. Then I had a bright purple Tundra. I really like fun colors. I've got 3 daughters. The amount of like pink and teal and like funky colored trucks was amazing. Most of them that were the jacked up 4-wheel drive did not have a front drive shaft, and that's okay. It's a show. We're not here to knock them. I'm trying to think of what else I saw that was really. I mean, of course, we're seeing a ton of like lighting technology is getting better and better on the aftermarket side. My friends at Magnaflow bought a company called Camberg Racing. So it's really cool to see them get into that space of off-roading and overlanding. I think that's going to be really cool. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, there was a ton of stuff still. I mean, every year. Hoonigan had a really great showing out front. You probably saw the Vern Yard was gigantic.
Yes. Yeah.
They had Leah Block there, and she drove her dad's Hoonicorn, which was so cool. It's the first SEMA without Ken. So that was definitely. It's hard to imagine someone's footprint, a guy like Ken Block, and what he really meant to the industry. And then you're there and you see it and you feel like, oh man, this is different. And it's funny because he wasn't a guy that grew up in that stuff. There are people that come in this industry and innovate and change things. And he was one of those guys that I guess when they were, when he started DC and he was skating, they ended up doing this thing with Monster, and they'd go to like these go-kart days. And Ken was getting destroyed by like 13-year-olds on go-karts. And so he basically decided, like, I want to be better at this. I want to be a better driver. So he started hiring, driving coaches. Tanner spent a lot of time with him. Then he ends up competing, and he starts liking rally. Then he does rallycross, all this other stuff. And through his path and really his love of just going fast and being insane behind the wheel, you birth this level of interest that's just so real and so organic. And now it's interesting to see, I think the brand and Wheel Pros that bought Hoonigan kind of announced the week before that they're going to change their name of the whole parent company. Everything's going to be under the Hoonigan name, right? And I think we're going to see, what I hope is that we see this genuine connection between people and car culture, and hopefully it's going to be amplified in a way that is bigger and louder than it's ever been before. So I know guys like you and I can totally get behind that, because it's going to be sort of redefining the stuff that made all of us interested in it in the first place.
We had Mike Spagnola on the show last year, and he talked about really preserving that car culture that SEMA is still and aims to be the epicenter of car culture. And I think there's no other place on the planet that would allow that immersive experience from all angles. There is nothing else, Rutledge.
Yeah. And let's give Mike credit. What a good dude to see the way that he loves what they're doing. I think they did something really cool this year. They made this thing called SEMA Fest, and they were trying to basically take some of the element of the car show part of SEMA and then bring a bunch of musicians together. My friend Jared DeAnda emceed it, and I wasn't there in town still for it. It looked awesome. I do think as an industry, so many people ask, what can I do to be there? Like, how can I be a part of it? I kind of think we ought to have one day that is a more public focused day, because all of these companies, even though they do a ton of B2B stuff, that's certainly what, like the Apex show, which is basically across the street, they can go do that stuff. But a lot of these companies, there's no better way to meet your core audience, especially the enthusiasts, than saying, hey, come on in. We want to meet you. We want you to see our new stuff, see what we're working on. So I do wish there was a way that we could figure out what's that part. Like, maybe we have a few days where the industry can do all their stuff, have their meetings, so all that. But how do we bring the public in and really celebrate all the hard work that all these people put in on all these vehicles, especially?
There's so much that I want to cover with you here, but I want to start at the country music television and the fact that you were doing marketing after graduation from Georgia. And then you're doing a sales job at Hertz, right? And then you're doing gigs in radio and karaoke in Metro Atlanta.
Absolutely.
And now we're sitting here talking about, SEMA, and I'm going to talk about Hot Wheels and Netflix and the floor is lava and all that stuff. What a journey.
I believe that Michael Myers said said it best in Wayne's World. I have a large collection of name tags and hairnets. It took a lot of hard work and a lot of fun stuff to get here. I'll tell you this, I went to school for marketing at the University of Georgia. It was kind of the most non-specific business major because they had ditched general business 2 years before. And I was like, oh, that's what I was going to do. So, marketing to me is connecting people and things, whether it's a product, an experience, an idea, it's that. So I've really just marketed myself my whole career since I got out of school. It was like day one, what do I do next? And so, yeah, that's how I ended up doing mobile marketing for CMT. And then I was like, I don't really want to travel, which was hilarious. Great foreshadowing for what was going to happen the rest of my career.
Right.
I was going to travel nonstop, but I was like, I'll just, and I was like, I'll just get a normal job. And a family friend got me an interview, and I worked for Hertz. And even though I was miserable, I didn't want to do that job. I knew it wasn't the right thing. My work ethic is so high that I was like winning sales awards, but miserable. And
what were you doing? Like checking people out at the rental counter?
So it wasn't like an airport one. It was Hertz Local Edition. So they were like these smaller Hertz that would be like if your car got in a fender bender, they're the group that's like, oh, we got a car for you. We'll come get you. So it was really funny. It was great, but I was still like, this isn't for me. And so one day I was like, hey, I just want to let you know I'm gonna quit. And they're like, okay, you putting in your 2 weeks? I was like, no, I'm just gonna go get my keys. I'm gonna take off. Which I felt bad for, but you're like, look, life's short. I gotta go. I showed up at a radio station 2 days later because a family friend we had met over there. And I just start showing up every day asking this guy, Uncle Rich, can I watch you do your show? And he's like, sure. He teaches me how to use the board and operate that. And then 2 weeks later, they offered me a part-time job. And I was like, great. Because I started like taking the trash out and stuff when I noticed no one else was doing it. Now, meanwhile, I'm flipping cars on Craigslist at the same time. So I'm buying stuff, wash it, clean it up, sell it so I can have some money, right? We had just gotten married at that point. And so you're like, well, I got to figure out what this next thing is. And I'd spend like 8 months seemed to be my window of time. So I was at the radio station 8 months. I get hired away by a friend to go do marketing and host karaoke at their local club called the Alamo in Noonan, Georgia. My friend Yvonne Monet. Yvonne is this incredible DJ and also MC, and she really helped me understand how do I host, how do I MC, how do I get the crowd to do the things that I want to do. And every day I was looking online for jobs, and I found on Craigslist this link it said a national motorsports network needed someone who could be an on-site marketing rep and an MC, and that turned out to be the Speed Channel. And I put in a application and did a couple phone interviews, drove to Charlotte, and 2 weeks after that, I was at the Daytona 500, and
wow,
that was just like kind of the beginning of all the craziness.
But I want you to say, back to the karaoke. All right, let's hear it for Yvonne doing ABBA.
That's right. All right, guys, let's get Yvonne up here. She's going to be doing Dancing Queen. I mean, it was
Jason's going to do Kenny Chesney next.
Here was the brilliance of it. I love to sing. I love to do karaoke. I know people get really nervous. So my idea was, let's make it to where everyone looks silly and they dress up funny. So it just evens the playing field. So we created this thing called the Karaoke Chest of Fun. And it had probably 10 different wigs in there. Oh. It had a bunch of my old outfits. And then we went to like the local Goodwill and got the weirdest things we could for like $50. And we put it all together literally in a gigantic chest. So you'd see a person up there with like a Viking helmet on singing Toby Keith. So suddenly the girl in the back that was like shy and nervous, she's like, well, that guy looks like an idiot. I'm going to be fine. And man, it was so much fun, Jason. To have that sort of equalizer was just a great lesson for me. And like, oh man, if we can all feel good, everything's going to be great.
I love it. You've covered the Olympics on NBC, barbecue competitions on the Food Network. Of course, all the kids listening know about you from The Floor is Lava. How did all that happen?
You know what's funny? I'm still not sure. The first opportunity I got was outside of Speed Channel was for Top Gear, right? So I was one of the hosts of Top Gear US on the History Channel.
And you thought it was a hoax, right? When they called you? Somebody called you?
Absolutely. I got a phone call, and it was a woman named Celia, and she was from the Central Booking Agency. And she said she wanted to talk to me about a show. And because I prank called so many people in college, because at UGA, all of the dorms had the same like prefix. It was 357 and then four numbers. So you would just, sometimes we'd play dorm roulette and we'd just get a bunch of people together and call them on speakerphone and leave funny messages. So I thought for sure it's a friend prank calling me. So I was like, hey, you got to come up with a better name for your company next time. And
And
I
a
hang up.
central booking agency.
That, like, what are they talking about? Turns out it's a huge thing. Central Booking Agency has been around a long time, and I just had no idea. So she calls right back and she's like, let's try this again. I tried to find a manager or an agent. You don't seem to have either. I'm calling. BBC wants to talk to you about a show. And I was like, I am so sorry I hung up on you. Yes, I'd love to. So that ends up being the opportunity to talk to producers about Top Gear, which, of course, I loved the UK show. And I loved what they did. I even knew that they had done a pilot for NBC that failed and didn't get picked up. So I knew a lot about it. And of course, the whole time, like, I never think I'm going to get this. I'm just like goofy guy from Alabama who's been living in Georgia since he was 15. I'm now covering NASCAR. Like, there's so many things that I was like, there's no way they'd let me do that. And then lo and behold, I got it.
They did.
My favorite part still, like, they called me like, hey, can we get your lawyer's information? And I was like, yeah. I don't have that on me right now. Let me grab that and I'll call you right back. And I don't know what to do. I scramble. I call my friend Kyle Petty. Kyle and I became friends in 2005, my first year. So at this point, he's my best friend. And I call him and I was like, what does that mean? Is that like the guy on the commercials? Like, it's my money and I need it now? Like a lawyer like that? He's laughing. He's like, no, they mean like an entertainment lawyer. I was like, I don't know what that is. I've never heard of that.
Personal injury lawyer.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, call Ken. I don't know. So he says, give them this guy's number. I'll call him and tell him to take care of everything. He's going to do it. So this guy who I had never met negotiated my first deal for Top Gear. This guy named Bill Scott. We're still friends today. But it's an amazing thing to have friends. So that was like the first thing. Turns out a bunch of the people that I worked with on Top Gear over the years at History and at BBC went on to go do other things. So a couple years later, like, I did a show called Lost in Transmission in between seasons of Top Gear, which was a fun show. That was like kind of my first time that I got to do stuff on my own. And it was about fixing up cars at home with my friends, and my friend George Flanagan helped me do that one. And I ended up moving to NBC in I guess it was 2015. So I go to Brazil in 2016 for the Summer Olympics, Pyeongchang Winter Olympics, all that kind of stuff. So at some point, I get a phone call from Netflix, and they say, hey, we have this show called Hyperdrive, and it's going to be this kind of crazy racing thing. Well, I had met with the producers 2 years before, and I just try to be honest with everybody, and I feel like we can, if we're just being normal people, things will go better.
Yeah.
So these people told me about this show, and it sounded insane. And it sounded super cool, but it also sounded really, really expensive. And so I told them, I don't know if anyone's ever going to give y'all enough money to do this show right, but if they do, please call me. Like, I'd love to be a part of it. This sounds right. It's just you can't half-ass this. Like, it's got to be all the way. Yeah. So then I get a call, and turns out this show is going to work. And I was like, oh, this is great. So turns out they had me out. I read for that a little bit, and I got picked. And Hyperdrive is still one of my favorite things I've ever done. It's on Netflix. It's this crazy combination of like American Ninja Warrior, but for cars. So it's people in their own cars doing kind of like Top Gear-esque insane stunts, but there's all these different things. So it's trying to test a little bit of drag racing, a little autocross, a little drifting, targets. It's insane. So we do that show. And someone there says, we think you should do another show for us. Who do you want to work with? You know, what could you do? And I was like, well, I want to work with this guy, John Hessling, who I'd done Top Gear with. And they're like, great. Okay. So we start talking. They want a barbecue competition show. And my whole thing was, I want to make a show that is legit barbecue, great stuff, but also, like, I don't want fake drama. Like, that just seems dumb to me. So I don't want to have anything to do with that. But let's find real people that are cool and actually make you want to go cook and be passionate about it. So that was the show we created called American Barbecue Showdown. And we shot that here in Georgia around my schedule. I was like going to races every week, and we'd come up and pick back up. So that was really fun. And after they bought that show, And then they called me and said, "Hey, we have this show called The Floor is Lava." And I was like, "I'm in." That's literally all they said. And I was like, "I'm in. I want to do it." And they're like, "How do you know what that is?" I was like, "I played Floor is Lava as a kid, like where you jump up on all
You
the."
jump from couch to couch.
Yeah, I was like, "This will be perfect," having no idea what it was actually gonna be like. And so the fun thing for me is I knew they had bought the barbecue show, but I hadn't heard anything about it. And this is like April of 2019, let's say. And I hadn't heard anything about it. So when they called about this other thing, and I'm gonna have to get NBC was so kind to always let me out to go do other stuff. And I was like, go and do Floors Lava, and then I fly overnight to be at the Indy 500. And just everyone's been so kind to me that I've worked with to know that I love doing all this different stuff. And I think it helps everybody, because if your kids know me from Floors Lava and then they see me on a NASCAR race, they go, "Oh my gosh, here's that." Then there's a chance they might want to watch with you. So
That's
it's
right.
really been a great thing. But my agents, when I talked to them at the agency I was at, I said, "Tell you what, tell them I'll do that show, but it's got to trigger the other show to go into production. So like we'll combo them." And they were like, "This isn't American Pickers. Like this industry, you can't like bundle stuff." And I was like, "I've got nothing to lose. I don't live in LA. I'm not
Yep.
going to wait tables between my next thing. Like just throw it out there and see what happens." Excuse me. So turns out that worked. And so that's how both of those shows end up happening. And the crazy part is we had no idea that the world was going to basically slow down to a stop in 2020. Floor Lava comes out in June of 2020. It's real close to Father's Day. And the next week, it's like 3 days later, it goes to #1 on Netflix. And then it just stays there for a week and a half or something. And each day I wake up and I'm like, it's whatever it is, it's cool. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's #1 again. It's #1 again." We got 38 million viewers in the first month.
Wow.
And it was worldwide for Netflix. It was #7 for Netflix Global for 20, and it came out halfway through the year. So it's this just juggernaut of family fun, me telling goofy dad jokes. And I've spent my whole career talking about cars and people and racing and all these other things. And then I go do this super fun thing, and suddenly every kid overnight knows who I am. And like my daughters all knew what I did for work. Their friends didn't really get it. They knew I traveled a lot. But overnight, I've got 3 daughters. All of their friends are like, "That's your dad. That your dad's a Floor is Lava guy." And
Now all
man,
of a
yeah,
sudden you're getting stopped in supermarkets and everything else.
yes, like because think about it, covering NASCAR, it typically always skewed a little bit older. Top Gear brings that down, right, to a
Yep.
younger audience. And you're doing the food shows, whether it was Southern and Hungry, I did with my friend Guy Fieri, and my co-host is Damaris Phillips. She's amazing. It's funny how I find all these different like audiences, and then the kid audience hits. And like still when I go, it was a Thanksgiving feast at our youngest daughter's school yesterday, and all these kids are like, "That's the Floor is Lava guy. That's your dad?" Like it
Wow.
just cracks you up.
That's so cool.
I just had no idea that I'd get to do all these things. And then this past year, this year, I'm saying past because it's November. This year I got to host my first primetime show, which turns out to know that I got to be the host of a car show that's on prime time on NBC, the biggest network in the world. Like you just would never have guessed that. I answered a Craigslist ad, and I just wanted to make people smile. Jason, I just didn't want to. I didn't want to work in a cubicle, and here I am hosting the show with my favorite toy of all time, the thing that ties car culture in for so many of us at a young age. I'm representing Hot Wheels on this global level. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And then you look at the show, and it is a joy factory. I mean, to connect people with memories of their childhood or their family and car culture and all of these different parts, and get to put a smile on their face. I still don't understand how these things happen. I feel so lucky every day.
Well, it's amazing. And many listeners will know you as the host of that show now, Hot Wheels Ultimate Challenge. Was that a show concept brought to you to host, or are you integral in the creation of it?
I did not get to help create it. I got to do a lot of producing as it was happening, which was really fun for me. It came to me, I'd kind of heard rumblings of it, and I was like, well, that would be awesome if that happens. And you're not sure. This industry, it's just so strange. And this year's a perfect example with the strike. I'm so glad it ended. last night. That's great news. Originally, I was being interviewed to be a judge for the show, and I think they had hoped for some really high caliber names to host it, which totally makes sense. The tough thing about something like that is if you don't really know and love cars and know lots of different cars, I think that would be a pretty difficult position to be in. And the further down the road they got, they're like, this dude is a nerd. He knows about a lot of cars and a lot of different parts of culture in the world. And so suddenly it was like, hey, so we think you might get to host it. And then I was like, well, how is this going to work? This is going to be insane. So the show shot in the UK. And part of that, I think, was because we were doing something no one had ever done before. The competition show is to take two people and you reunite them with a car from their past. Now, not the car, but a car that is identical to it. So we might buy an old Chevy Blazer and paint it before they even see it the same color, put stuff on the interior that is the same beaded seat cover, maybe the Dalmatian that's head bounces on the dash, whatever. We try to painstakingly get those cars as perfect as they remember, and then we reunite them with that car. Now, that moment, way more emotional than any of us thought, because sometimes you're seeing these like big muscular dudes, a grandma, everybody comes out, and it's just waterworks for almost every single person.
Sure it is.
And it was so cool. You know, you think about the cars that you grew up in with your family. Like, what was the car that you remember most growing up in?
My dad's Toyota Supra from 1986.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
And your dad's cool. That's a legit, dude. That's a cool car, especially being a kid. You're like, my dad's a superhero part time. He's got a Supra.
Well, and
imagine.
My mother gave me her Volkswagen GTI when I was 16.
Oh, come on. 8 valve or 16 valve?
It was 16.
Oh man, come on. That's awesome. That's a fun car.
Yes.
So imagine you walk out and either one of those cars is there exactly the way you remember it.
Waterworks.
Absolutely. And then we're going to give you this team. We call them the carpoolers. They are fabricators, artists, mechanics, and they're going to create whatever it is you want out of that thing. So if you wanted that Supra to be slammed on the ground, huge wheels, maybe you want it jacked up and you want to make like a safari car, whatever it is that you wanted to do, they're going to do it. And they truly only had a week to do it. TV, I'm going to be honest, Jason, sometimes they fib a little. I know it's going to shock a lot of people.
Breaking news on Sirius XM.
Yeah, I hate to tell everyone, the Kardashians, they weren't actually going to do that on that Tuesday. Oh no, there was a little bit of a plan there. But our teams really only had a week, and that's start to finish, paint, bodywork, everything you need to do. You've got a week to do it. And then when you see the cars, the super fan, we call them, they get to help up with the team, everything except basically the last day and a half. And so they see the car revealed to them in this huge way that is truly trying to make a car into a life-size Hot Wheels. Because Hot Wheels, their team does so much work in the design phase to really put so many details in a car that could never be in a normal car. And so for us, it's like, let's do that on this life-size scale. It was incredible to have my friend Hertrich Eugene Jr. People know him as Hurt. He was at Hoonigan for years. Hurt and I have been friends for like 15 years. When they told me that he got the show, which I knew was going to be huge for him, I called him on FaceTime and I started crying. I didn't mean to, but I was just so proud. Like, it's just such a cool thing to have this, Haitian kid with a dream, as he says in his new song with T-Pain. He worked at Injuku Racing, which is down in your neck of the woods. And to see his success and everything else to make all of that stuff work was so cool. And then Dalala Sheck, who's this amazing designer, she's now with Mercedes. It was just, man, it's one of the coolest experiences. It was also one of the hardest shows I've ever worked on because we were in the UK. We were gone for 2.5 months away from my whole family. And that's a ton of time for everything. But the days are long because you literally only have, 12, 13 hours a day. These people you're trying to help them get some ideas. Because, sometimes you see a person really commit to something and you just want to lean in and be like, hey, that's a cool idea. It's not going to work. You do not have the time to put a swimming pool in this car or whatever it is. So some people said, oh, it's like Pimp My Ride. I was like, nah, I mean, I get why you could say that. I think it is bigger and better, and it's got a competition element, which Pimp My Ride didn't have. But it was just so cool to see that show and how it did. It's on Peacock. There's also a cool after show that we did, because it was also fun that how many people disagreed with the cars that we would pick as the winner. I really enjoy that because, everybody likes something different. And sometimes we would see a car, there's definitely a difference of on camera versus in person, right? I'd never seen it with this much disparity. But on camera, if you saw it, like, man, every single car looked awesome. That's a real gift. And that is not necessarily what it was like in person. A couple of them, you were like, wow, did Ray Charles design this? Who would pick that element for this thing? Like, there's no way someone with vision of a car and understanding what you're trying to do here. Some of them were just a miss, but also the kind of randomness of how the cars ended up in the shows they did. Some of them, if you had swapped them around, we would have had a totally different finale, I bet. But certain cars, just crushed other ones in their kind of expectations and follow through. But it was such a cool thing to be part of. The strike has definitely brought all of the networks to a standstill. So we haven't heard yet if we're going to get another season. I'm going to do everything I can to keep driving people to go watch on Peacock, because I think we could do some really cool stuff with it. But even the celebrities were cool to be a part of that with them.
Well, we'll hopefully use this as a megaphone to anybody listening as well. We
Please
will do that.
A great family-friendly show that's all about cars and car culture on a major network. What a gift that is alone.
Amen. Because you're out in the world at all these places, some within the car community, some peripheral to it. Give us a sense of the future of the car passion that you see with a younger audience.
I definitely think I think there is more hope to be had than we thought for a couple of years, with that notion of like, oh, people aren't getting their license. Yeah. I see with my oldest daughter, who's 15, we live in a town called Peachtree City, Georgia, where we have 100 miles of golf cart path. And so when you turn 15, if you go get your permit, you can drive a golf cart anywhere you want in town on these paths. And I see that, to me, is a really great thing in this area, because it makes them better drivers, right? By the time they get their license, they've actually been driving something every single day for a year, understanding laws and traffic and stuff that's going on there. But I'm hearing more and more kids now talk about, okay, we had that kind of time period where people were just virtually hanging out, whatever. Turns out that stinks. And that's not real connection. And even they know it now. So I think we're starting to see that. It's funny talking to Elsie, my oldest. I've got a Corolla hatchback that's a manual. It's a 6-speed, like a 2019. And I've gotten her help on picking out the wrap color. And, I wanted to make something that would be fun for her to be her first car. But I want it's got a MagnaFlow exhaust on there. It's got rotiforms, but it's a manual transmission. I wanted her to have something that she had to actively drive and understand that as her first car. Now, that may not be the car that she has forever. Maybe we sell it 6 months, 8 months later, get her something else. But I wanted her to focus fully on that experience. And it's funny, she's great at it. She doesn't love it because it's taking that mental focus. I do think if we had more manual transmissions to teach kids, I definitely think they'd be better drivers. But also, let's be honest, half the parents of these kids can't drive either. So it's a funny thing to me. I think probably in the same way that you do. I think the story of why I have old cars and why those are cool and connecting them with that, it's really just, if we can show younger people what it is about cars that we love, we will continue this passion and this hobby. But my 72 K5 Blazer that I built with Summit Racing and Holly last year, that connects more people with the experience of driving than hardly anything else I own,
Former boss of mine, Keith Crane, runs Crane Communications, automotive news, editor-in-chief for a long time. Obviously, Dutch knows him well. He had a philosophy for my children, and it was 4-wheel drive, manual, steel roof. Because you're going to keep your hands off your cell phone. Yep. You're going to be okay with 4-wheel drive in most any situation. And if the thing flips, you're going to be okay there too. And I've followed that philosophy. So a Subaru WRX fits the bill.
Yes. That's perfect. I mean, Subaru WRX will make people love driving. It's fun. It's exciting, but it's not so fast.
Yeah. But my son does. Yeah.
I was going to say, for the record, I used to say, oh, it's not fast enough to get you in trouble. I've slowly removed that statement from my vernacular. I think the right hands, anybody can destroy something. But I used to think that the best thing for a 16-year-old would be a used cop car with a brush guard on the front. And I'm pretty firm on that. I think either a Crown Vic or a Camry should be everybody's first car, right? Something that you can afford to insure. It's cheap on gas, but also you can learn some fundamentals of like, how do I work on this? How do I change tires? I do think the more that we talk about this country and the amazing towns that are on two lanes, I do think that we can create more interest and more love and connection of going out and finding those spots. Because I do think that was a real gift that 2020 brought us. And so many people are like, oh, you can't go anywhere. Well, I'll be damned. This is the time that I want to go somewhere. And suddenly people got on the highway and they went places. And they
went places again. That's right. Yep.
Yeah, camping, RVing, all of these things took off because people were like, oh, if I'm not supposed to go anywhere, I'm definitely going to go somewhere now. Now's the time. And I took a COVID safe road trip in December of 2020 with my friend Ryan Eversley, who's a pro race car driver, and our friends at Continental Tire. We both flew out to LA. We each picked up our own sports car. He got an NSX. I had a Toyota Supra. And we made a simultaneous road trip together because, again, they were saying you shouldn't be in the car. Okay, fine. We'll do it together. And we went down Route 66. My dad grew up in Moriarty, which is just outside of Albuquerque. And in between the two, on Route 66, is this one section of lane where you can drive. I think it's 45 miles an hour. And there are grooves in the asphalt, and they will play a song in your car as you drive.
What?
Yes, it's the coolest, man. And it was like having those kind of moments. Or, we stayed at my Uncle Mike's. It was like my dad's best friend growing up. We stayed at his family's motel in Moriarty, and I think it's the Sunset Motel. It's just, you have these experiences and you then you carry on. I think it was Tucumcari. There's a lot of other spots. Route 66 was just this amazing vessel, and it was really like transporting people to another place, another lifestyle. It would let you imagine that you could be anything you would want to be. And I don't think we have another equivalent of that today. I mean, the interstate is fantastic. Sure, you can go from Atlanta to Florida in 6 hours. That's awesome. But like, what's that part of America that expressed freedom and all these other things? I think taking families out, showing kids how many cool small towns there are out there is the greatest way that we have forward, personally.
Yeah. A couple of final things here. And unfortunately, because I think we could probably talk for a week here.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're a color analyst for NBC's horse racing broadcasts. How did you arrange it that you got yourself some real wild ass suits?
Okay, I want to be clear. My job for NBC has always been to help people understand that sort of sense of place. And my boss, Sam Flood, there does such a great job at helping us create these opportunities. And, when I first went to NBC, I told him I couldn't tuck my shirt in. I couldn't wear khakis. He wears khakis. He tucks his shirt in. But when he said, hey, we're going to the Derby, that was all he said. And I thought, this is my chance. I'm going to show them that I can wear a suit. I just don't normally. So the first year, I think I ordered some suits from my friends at Shinesty. They make some really loud, like off the wall stuff. And the second year I said, can you guys help me? Can you design some suits for me? I gave them like 8 months heads up. Yeah, absolutely. And so every year they were making me custom suits that would have NBC logos kind of hidden somewhere in there. One of them, it was a peacock feathers one year. And I even got Sam and Dale Jr. a matching jacket once, and there's a picture of us all with matching jackets. So we had a great time, but it's such a, my job is like sense of place. And so I try to help people be there, be a part of it. And the Kentucky Derby is still one of my favorite things I've ever been a part of. It should be on everyone's bucket list. Yeah.
What a blast. Yeah. I know you do a lot of car restorations. You have a lot of cars. What don't you have that you want?
Oh, gosh, that's a great question. I really want a nice FJ40 that has a soft top. I think I would probably trade my K5 Blazer for an equivalent FJ. It's just the FJ values are so much higher that I couldn't. When I was building this one, I found it in pieces. I haven't found the right one. I've owned two and bought and sold both of them. One, it was the only one I ever bought sight unseen, and I definitely learned my lesson. It had a little too much rust for my capabilities. So I always want to have a really cool Land Cruiser. I have this weird itch to find a McLaren MP4 12C.
Oh, nice.
Said with love. Some of the McLarens have not been the most reliable cars, and I've watched a bunch of people work on them on YouTube. And someone found out like they use the same coil packs as a Altima, and that one really made me laugh. But Tanner and I and Adam on Top Gear, we did a cross country road trip, and I got to drive that car, and it was so fast for a rear wheel drive setup, and they've come down so much in price. That was crazy. I built the RWB, which is a bespoke 911, like one of one built for you. I really want to build another one. I sold the first one because it tried to kill me every time I drove it, because I put a LS3 in the back from Summit Racing, and Tanner drove it, blew it up. We had to change the engine. Thank you, GM Performance. Appreciate y'all. I did say Tanner blew it up, not me. That car was so fun. I definitely would love to have another. What do they call that? They have like this red berry color of a 911 of like a 1990 to 93. I can't remember, but it's not quite pink, but it's not quite magenta, right? It's in that window. I'd love to just have one of those that has a cool set of wheels on it and drive it and not mess with it. Because driving that car, it really is just a Beetle with 2 extra cylinders. 911 people won't like that, but that's the truth and they know it. I think I just want something like that. And I really want another donk. I had a 76 Caprice, and I really want to build a Toyota Supra 2JZ powered 71, 72, 73 Caprice convertible on huge wheels.
Well, if you go to your Instagram account, you can see the progress on a Toyota pickup truck you're making into a drift racer.
Yes.
But
it's so close.
Why?
Why not? Come on, man.
Why not?
Why not? I love that truck. I always wanted a 91 to 95 Toyota pickup when I was in high school, and I couldn't afford one. I had an 81 Rabbit pickup, and a couple of my friends had those. And so I've always been into mini trucks. And I finally decided, okay, now I'm going to build one. So I did like the 4Runner front end conversion. And then I lowered it, put Starion wheels on it. Turns out it had a blown head gasket, and I was not going to spend all that money at the time to replace it on that 22 RE. So it's got a 1JZ twin turbo swap. It's at Quarter Works in Atlanta. And we made the decision yesterday to wrap it instead of paint it, so that I can be doing donuts before the end of the year. So you're going to love that one. We'll go for a ride sometime.
I'll come up to Georgia. I'll come up to Peachtree City. We'll take it on some of those golf cart paths.
Okay, let's do it. They'll love it.
You have come a long way, my friend, from the rental car counter at Hertz. I know it wasn't at the airport, but you know what I mean.
Still.
And could not be more proud, more happy about your success, about your varied interests. You're perfect for this show because we are chronicling, documenting. We have car culture, and you are car culture. So Rutledge Wood, thank you for being a guest. Thank you for making us laugh on this program more than we have in 130 episodes.
Thank you. I will take that. That's a great thing. Jason, thanks for having me, brother. Appreciate what y'all are doing.
Thank you so much. Thanks again to my guest today, TV personality Rutledge Wood. And to see my interview with him, go to the Cars and Culture YouTube channel. Like and subscribe to see more than 125 interviews and 1,000 videos. I'm Jason Stein. Thanks for listening to the show. We'll see you down the road.